Welcome to Stephen FM AI, Ireland's Daily Digest. Today, we're looking at what can only be described as a perfect storm brewing over Ireland in early 2026. We've got 5 stories that, on the surface, seem totally unrelated, but when you start to connect the dots, they paint a picture of a country under some serious strain. These aren't just headlines, you see. They're the fault lines running right through the nation.
So, what's on the agenda? We're going to start with a global trade war that's suddenly landing on Ireland's doorstep. Then we'll dive into a quiet but devastating financial shock for thousands of carers. And after we've looked at all 5 crises, we're going to pull it all together to show you the bigger and, frankly, pretty alarming picture.
Okay, let's kick things off with a headline that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a movie. A massive international dispute over Greenland is about to have a very real, very direct impact on jobs and households right here in Ireland.
So here's the deal. It all boils down to this. President Trump is threatening to slap tariffs on any NATO ally who doesn't back his plan to buy Greenland. Now, this isn't just some political spat. Because of its unique post-Brexit trade status, Northern Ireland's dual market access is put directly in the firing line. It makes the region incredibly vulnerable to this economic pressure play.
And this quote from Lord Impey, wow, it just nails the geopolitical fallout. This isn't just about trade. It's a move that's causing chaos within the NATO alliance itself. And that kind of internal disarray, well, that's exactly what its adversaries love to see.
So while the government's trying to deal with these huge threats from the outside, a really long and painful search for truth is just beginning to get underway inside a Belfast courtroom. Just look at this timeline. It really lays bare the grueling 6-year journey for Noah Donohoe's family. From his tragic death all the way back in 2020, it's taken until now, just to start selecting a jury for the inquest. An inquest that his mother Fiona has fought for relentlessly, every single day.
And you really can't overstate how sensitive this whole thing is. The coroner's come out with this incredibly stark warning. Any social media chatter that could even possibly jeopardize the proceedings will have serious consequences. It just goes to show how high the stakes are for a fair process after such a long, painful wait for answers.
So, you have the justice system trying to find answers about the past in one case. But at the very same time, a really disturbing trend is bubbling up in the present. New figures are showing how violence is actively being used to shape the future for some of Northern Ireland's most vulnerable kids.
Yeah, this is a pretty chilling concept. After major riots in Belfast and Ballymena, experts are raising the alarm. They're saying this wasn't just random violence. It was orchestrated. They're calling it a pipeline, a systematic way to exploit the chaos and pull vulnerable children into paramilitarism.
And this number, it just hits you right in the gut. 50. That's how many children the PSNI had to refer to social services under child exploitation protocols because of those riots. It's a stark, chilling number that shows the real human cost of this horrible strategy.
All right, let's shift gears and head south to the Republic, where a legal saga that has, let's be honest, both captivated and probably exhausted the entire country just keeps on going. It's a story that really makes you ask some big questions about where individual belief ends and the power of the state begins.
And this is the absolute heart of the conflict, right here. You've got 2 immovable objects. On one side, you have Enoch Burke's unshakable refusal to back down from his principles. And on the other, you have the clear, undeniable authority of the High Court. It's that direct collision that's led to him being jailed for contempt of court for a 5th time. I mean, this quote from the judge, it just says everything, doesn't it? You can almost hear the exasperation in his voice. It perfectly captures the frustration around this circular, repetitive, and incredibly expensive legal fight that just seems to have no end in sight.
And for our final piece of the puzzle, we're looking at a story that might just have the most immediate and honestly devastating impact of them all for tens of thousands of regular families. This is a crisis that wasn't born from conflict, but from pure bureaucracy.
So how did this happen? Well, a new data sharing agreement set off this quiet but catastrophic chain reaction. It looks so simple on paper. Data gets shared, a group of carers gets identified, and then bam, letters start going out that could throw some of the most vulnerable people in society into a massive financial hole.
And to make this really hit home, think about this. One man, in his 80s, who cares for his wife full-time, now has an unexpected bill for 6,000 euros, just out of the blue. For so many people in that situation, that is a completely ruinous, impossible amount of money. Okay, so a trade war,
A painful court case, riots, that never-ending arrest cycle, and a sudden tax bill for thousands. How on earth do these 5 seemingly random stories actually connect? What is the common thread here?
And here it is. This is the big takeaway, the North Star of this whole explainer. These aren't just 5 separate events. They are symptoms, 5 different faces of a single, overarching crisis. You've got a country being squeezed by global forces, fractured by its own internal divisions, and let down by systemic failures, all at the exact same time. And that leads us to a really tough question, doesn't it? When you see all this happening at once, you have to ask, what does this say about the state's priorities? Is the system so distracted by the loud, long-running dramas that it's completely missing the people who quietly, desperately need its help? So you see, these aren't just random stories to scroll past. They are the active fault lines. And understanding how these pressures, the external shocks and the internal strains, are all connected is absolutely crucial to getting a real sense of where the nation stands today.
So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. When you look at the whole picture, what's the greater danger in the long run? Is it the massive economic storm that's gathering out on the horizon, or is it the internal fractures at home that seem to be getting deeper and wider every single day? And that's the latest from Stephen FM AI, Ireland's Daily Digest.